Welcome to The Life of Hair. My name is James Atkinson. Thank you very much for choosing to join me into this episode of The Life of Hair. Now, in this particular episode, we're going to look at some transformation videos and specifically some bobs and some shorter hairstyles as well. I found this video and I thought it was particularly interesting as these hairstyles have fallen out of favour, especially with the younger crowd, due to the fact that the bob is now associated with the Karen thing, and it's very frustrating when you're a hairdresser and you love these styles on people and they suit them so well. You can see some fantastic versions of the bob in this video. Now, unfortunately, I don't know who created these videos because I found it on another channel, and in their description they said the videos of these videos belong to their rightful owners, which is absolutely fair enough. I wish I could credit the guys and girls that made these videos, but unfortunately in this episode I can't. This video was created by Beauty Place New, so thank you to those guys for putting this compilation together, and let's jump into today's video. Now, she has got a lot of beautiful long brown hair, but she is going for a big chop today, so let's jump in and see what she gets done. Her hair is amazing. I mean, hopefully she's donating this hair to the Little Princess Trust or one of those places that makes wigs for children, but instantly love it on her. I mean, she's got a very strong jawline, high cheekbones. She's very attractive. She could wear most styles, I'm sure, but it looks good like that. Yeah, leave it, like he's saying. I think, to be honest, you know, when you are looking at face shapes and things like that, when you've got that kind of strong jawline, you probably want to come past the jawline. You don't want a shape or a haircut that kind of accentuates that jawline out. So it's a great length that they've picked for her, and I really love it under that tousled, loose look. And I love both looks. She looked great with long hair too. Now, this is another good one as well. And I think this is obviously, she's probably grown out a lob or some kind of bob style previously. And he's done a nice little pre-section, little twisty Samvia fringe there. Really nice detail there around the cheekbone. Dried it beautifully. Lots of texture in this one, which is really nice. I'm just using the iron's edge to create that lovely S-bend. But I mean, she looks fantastic. Again, jawline comes in here, so it's okay to have it at that jawline in terms of length. You know, picking the right length of bob for the person really does matter. That jawline comes in, you can sit it on the jaw. If that jawline comes out square, you want it below the jaw. This is actually just below the jawline, and it's quite square, and she's got quite high cheekbones. She's got like a heart-shaped face almost, the way that it kind of high up here and nips in tight. Now, that length is probably borderline too short, but it's just enough for me that she's getting away that she looks fantastic with her curly hair and that beautiful round shape they've created there. Now, for my personal taste, this is a little bit too short for her jawline. Her jawline's quite square. She doesn't have particularly high cheekbones, and so therefore this sitting right on that level is not ideal. However, he has layered it a lot, which has slimmed the shape so it tapers into the jawline, which is going to be one of the saving graces of this style, is going to be pushing it around. Now, her face shape's quite long here, quite square, so the height thing that is created, you want to be very careful about height. Point from a slightly different angle with the finished look. The height being dragged across the side like that is a good thing. And you can see what I'm saying now about it tapering down into this cheek area, which means that it's drawing everything down slightly. And that is why it's not expanding that jawline. When you look at those more square bob shapes that we saw from the earlier videos, where if you put them on that jawline and that jawline's very square, it's only going to drag the square jawline out further. Okay, going for another big chop. So we've got afro textured hair here, or very curly, or whatever you want to call it. Really going at it here. Never like to see people remove hair like this. It's a no from me. Yeah, I don't know why people do it. For effect or what, I'm not really sure, but no. Right, big chop, huge chop then. Okay, well, all right. Moving the length like that might not have been such a bad thing, but I still don't necessarily agree with removing the length like that. And one of the things you've got to remember about curly textured hair is that obviously can take and require an enormous amount of styling. So choosing the correct length on curly textured hair can be very, very difficult. I love this style on her. She's very attractive. She'll get away with lots and lots of different textures and shapes, you know, wearing this straight, sweeping it, not sweeping it, maybe splitting it in the middle. There's lots of versatility here with this shape. I would just say that you've got to be sure that if you're a client and you're going to have a haircut like this, that it's going to be very, very high maintenance indeed. You're going to have to style it every day, because we saw her natural texture. It's very curly, very frizzy. So she's going to have to smooth and blow dry and iron this hair regularly. So it will be a very high maintenance hairstyle. Something to bear in mind if you're ever going to cut your hair shorter. They look like they've diffused it or naturally dried it. I don't think they have. There's definitely been some extra styling involved to make it look like that. So definitely something to think about if you've got very curly textured hair. The back is going to be particularly hard to maintain and keep looking nice as the hair grows out. So it's very, very important that you bear that in mind. Okay, I think another big bob transformation. Lots of thick hair, lots of wavy thick hair. So the length choices have to be absolutely bang on when you've got wavy thick hair, because it can, even if you take all the weight out of it, it can expand and puff out and can be very, very difficult. As you can see here, they're donating it to the Little Princesses Trust, which is excellent. I love it when people do that. If you don't know about the Little Princesses Trust, then go and check out their website and try and donate any restyles that you do that meets their criteria. So you've got to be quite specific, but definitely worth donating your hair to or donating restyles to. So the length there, obviously very thick, very big, very heavy. Got to be very, very mindful now of this final choice of length, because it could be very, very difficult for this lady to manage her hair day to day herself. And just again, picking that right shape and length for the client's hair texture and face shape. This is definitely not one we want to cut too short. It's going to create that kind of wider width on the face shape. You definitely want to keep it below the chin in this particular instance, using a natural drying technique, which I think is very interesting, because I don't necessarily think with these hair textures, making the client or giving them a style that needs a lot of styling is very beneficial to the client on a day-to-day level. Now we've got another restyle coming up here, taking a lot of hair off again. I hope they donated it. Looks really nice, but I think actually, if we look at the original, if we just look at the original, I know it's wet and it doesn't really give us a good idea, but I think she looks slightly younger there and she's less made up. So if we go to the finished result here, a slightly aging haircut on what is obviously a fairly young woman. So that's something you do have to bear in mind, is that if these bobs are ever going to make a comeback, we've really got to keep them young and fresh and interesting. This is not it for me personally, just my own personal take on this one. This has actually aged her a little bit. So be mindful of those shapes that you create that do come in at the back, the graduations and stuff like that. That, we're wearing them a little bit looser, a little bit more tousled, a little less blow dried. Otherwise, they will fall into the kind of, and it depends on the age of the person, it depends on what you love. I'm not saying that this is bad. I'm saying that you've got to be mindful that if we ever want to see the bob back in fashion and young people wearing them confidently and on a mass scale rather than just the odd few, then we've definitely got to be mindful about how we create these shapes for different age groups. I love, love, love. So I love, love, love this lady's natural colour. It's so unbelievably beautiful, suits her so well. And I love that you can just see a little bit around the ear there of the undercut they've given it. They've only undercut the sides and then they've got the nice graduated back. This will slim the shape down from the front. She obviously got a lot of hair, giving a lot of width. She's got quite a slim face shape, so she's gonna need that width to carry off that face shape, but she's obviously still enjoying having her hair high. You can have your hair high if you've got a slim face. You've just got to balance it with width. So this particular haircut, even though they've undercut it through the sides, is holding out that width, which you'll be able to see a little bit more from the front in just a second. When you create a shape like this, and if we look at it from the side here, we can see it comes out and down and round, and we can see that great little bit of detail shaving around the ear, which I love actually as a small detail. And it's really made this lady's hair look a lot more modern and interesting. Okay, another big restyle on very thick, beautifully coloured hair. I mean, I hope that's her natural because it's amazing. But she's got a lot of hair. They're going to obviously refresh her natural there with a little bit of bright red or orange or whatever that was. But going in with a quite a strong length there. You've got to be mindful when you're going to cut above the shoulders here. There's got to be some layers or some kind of internal channel cutting, invisible layers, especially when you're cutting at this length. That point cutting, by the way, is for pure effect. For anybody that's interested, it is just to make this video look more interesting. So thinning, channel cutting, razoring, all good options here when we're doing haircuts like this. Going in with the rollers, interesting finishing technique. Obviously flattened it and smoothed it. When they had the rollers in her hair, definitely felt aging to me. And again, they've done a similar thing, which I think looks great on long hair, but doesn't look so hot on a bob, is that they've given her that high fringe thing going on. And yes, obviously it's reminiscent of the 80s. It's reminiscent of the Monroe era, but I'm not entirely sure. She doesn't look older with this style like of the first one we saw. She still looks young. She is young. And this is definitely better than the long hair that she had that really wasn't doing too much. But I think you have to be mindful of how these hairstyles are styled, and giving it that kind of old school energy can be deterring for other people who are thinking about having their hair bobbed. And also her styling her hair like this on a day-to-day basis is going to be nearly impossible. She's not going to roller set her hair, brush it out, and give herself that high fringe. So got to think about the practicalities of wearing these styles. I hope you've taken something away about the suitability of a bob on different hairstyles and how you might want to go about it. For me, it's keeping it simple. It's allowing the person to dry their hair naturally, or at least putting in a very simple little bit of movement to the hair, whether it's straight or wavy. Invisible layers are working very well. Texturizing, razoring, those kind of techniques where you're reducing bulk, you're slimming the shape down, you're increasing the texture, but ultimately you're working with the client's hair. You're not giving them too much work to do, and you're not trying to give them some great big fringe, and and thinking about that length as well. That is really, really important. Remember, the wider the face shape at the jawline, the longer you want to keep the shape. You want it below that jawline. If it tapers in, it's heart-shaped, it's oval. Obviously, you can come up to that jawline or taper in if that is the desired length for the client, like we saw on that older lady's hair, where they tapered it in and they brought that shape in and they'd given a width. She still had height and width. If you're going to have a slimmer face shape, you're going to need to have width on it for definite. It will definitely suit them better. If they want height, you've got to make sure it's proportionate to the width. I hope those tips help. Have a great week, and I'll see you again next time for another episode of The Life of Hair.